It's the most important day of my life. And I just woke up. Good morning, friends and foes, and welcome to this very auspicious day. If you have deigned to watch even just like 2 minutes of any of my videos, you would know that The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater is one of my favorite books of all time. This series is my favorite series of all time. I cannot pick a favorite of them all, but this is where it's at. They have changed me so fundamentally as a person that like my consciousness and selfhood is inextricably linked to these books. So much so that, I don't know if you can see it from here, I'm going to visit 2 of my very best friends in a couple of weeks, and I wanted to do like a really nice gift for them, and part of that gift I decided would be to get them each their own copy and like do some light annotation. If they're seeing this, hi, I love you. I love you. And this is a sign of that because frankly, because it is so inextricably linked to my personality and my outlook on this world, I cannot be throwing these around willy-nilly to people in my life who I do not trust. Because if you know how much this book means to me and you end up not liking it, you don't like me. Like, we just have to cut our losses and head our separate ways, you know? This is a momentous day because it is July 29th, which is the day that the graphic novel adaptation of the first book of this series comes out. So, I'm very excited. I am going to get ready. We're gonna go to the bookstore. We're gonna pick her up, come home, and hopefully read it all. I figured I'd take you along with me because I've been waiting for this day since it was announced in 2022. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was the week that Grey Warren, which is the last book in the follow-up trilogy to this series, came out, and there was a whole thing about like the universe is ending and it was just so dramatic. I was like, it's very sad to feel like this is like the end of an era, because she was like, I'm not going to be writing anything else in this universe. I will not be engaging with it. Huh? I had a really stressful midterm that week, and I was like telling myself, the book came out on Tuesday, my exam was on Thursday, and I was like, I'm not allowed to read it until after my midterm on Thursday. I'll do that, and I'll come home and I'll immediately hole up in my room with this book. And then the next day, Midnights by Taylor Swift came out. So very like in my brain that week. And then there was a whole thing about the fact that there was no publishing embargo on it, and so a lot of indie bookstores were putting them out on the shelf first, but there was clearly a distribution issue in Canada, and so the day it was released, like basically no Chapters or Indigo had them, let alone the indie bookstores, and so I was shaking in my boots, but we ended up getting our hands on it. It was fine in the end, but I have no clue what the hell happened there. But yeah, I'm so excited. Let's go. My apologies for any background noise you may or may not be hearing. It is hot as balls outside, and I need to have my fan on. I need to have my fan on. I fixed my hair a little bit. I love how I'm treating this like it's like like I gotta get dolled up. I don't know if you can read that from here. Frankly, the Addison Rae album, I'm on board. Headphones on really was the kicker for me, because like, guess I gotta accept the pain. Need a cigarette to make me feel better. Everything good comes my way, so I still get dolled up. Life's no fun through clear waters. It's working for me. I'm sorry. Frankly, I feel like this is a horrible idea just because I'm not good at multitasking, but I figured I might talk briefly about how I'm feeling going into this, because it's very easy to have high expectations when you're so involved in the source material, and I have to like take a second to come back down to earth because it's 250 pages and a lot of the dialogue and the specifics of the narrative are going to be condensed because panels make it very easy to visually describe things that could have a lot of page time in a normal prose novel. I feel like I've seen some light spoilers about it, but there are some, as far as I have heard, some moments of like fan favorite dialogue or things, just like details that the fandom has really fixated on that do not appear in the graphic novel, which I should have expected. But I think I've learned my lesson from the Red, White, and Royal Blue movie, which I had feared every single thing I heard about it. Did not sound like it was going to be my cup of tea. Saw the trailer, was like, oh, you know what? That's not too bad. Was excited for it. Watched the movie. It was ass. All of my favorite portions of the book were nerfed. Do I think that that's the case for the graphic novel? No. But I need to be prepared. And granted, it actually has been, I don't know what's going on with this hair. It has actually been a little while now since I've reread the books in their entirety. I was planning on doing it this summer. I will be doing at least the first book for when I'm annotating the books for my friends. But I think that that has maybe ended up being to my benefit because it's not like the ultra specifics of the narrative and the dialogue and the prose are fresh in my mind. And so I'm gonna be clinging to that less. I just hope that it's overall a good depiction of the story. Do I think I'm going to love it any more than the original series? Probably not. But I am just more intrigued. I love having official art, especially because there were so many things kind of widely discussed in the fandom. I feel like I'm also breaking out like crazy and I don't know why. This just cropped up today. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple healing here. That's where another one's cropping up that I've been like, that's what made me say it. And then I had some on my jawline. Help me please. What I was I saying anything coherent ever? No. But there's things that have been like headcanons and things that have been widely adopted that were not officially confirmed and have been with the release of official art. I'm very excited to see Declan. I feel like there's been a surprisingly low amount of Declan leaks, which, I mean, I guess it's not that surprising because he's really not a main character at this point at all, but I love him. I'm excited to see more of the, I'm really hoping that there's going to be some really beautiful full-page Cabeswater panels. I'm excited to see how that's depicted. I'm not hung up on specifics of language, although it would have been nice to have those little nods to the fans. Like, Hey Tiger would not, come on. We all knew that that wasn't going to be in there. We hoped it would be, but frankly, of things that could have been sacrificed, that's not one that surprises me. I'm not afraid that there won't be any in store, but I am afraid that there won't be any in store because of what happened the last time with Great Warren. So I'm nervous, but my backup plan is to check the independent bookstore that's not too far from here. It's a little ways out, but it wouldn't be that crazy of a drive to make if I need to. It just wouldn't be my go-to because it is a lot further. Slight tangent. I did read my first Elsie Silver novel the other day because I was curious, and it wasn't that bad. It was not my, I'm not hooked by any means, but I will say that I was curious about it and had my interest piqued because people talk about her books a little bit differently than I find people talk about other kind of book talk romance books. And I was intrigued by the fact that it's set in Canada. And I went through and I wanted to do a Chestnut Springs book at first. And I looked through all of them. And frankly, most of them I was like, this doesn't seem like an interesting premise to me. I chose the one that seemed like it would be most up my alley to start with, which was Powerless, because it's like friends to lovers or whatever. And I'm glad I did, because at that, it was really hard to get into at first, because I was like, this is just so... Sometimes, and I think that it's where friends to lovers or second chance can sometimes be at a disadvantage, is because a lot of the story is relying on backstory and like something that has happened off page, and so it can feel like a lot of telling and not showing, especially at first, in terms of like, how am I, like, I'm supposed to just believe that you guys have chemistry and a good history and like XYZ things, but you haven't shown me that at all. So the first 40%, because I was reading it on my iPad, was like I'm dedicated to it, and it's not like it took me a long time to read, so it wasn't like a huge investment, so I was like, I'm gonna finish it. But dear God. And then after that, it actually did get quite good. Some dialogue choices, some structural things were kind of a bit off-putting to me. Hockey romances or sports romances or things like that, where they talk like super poetic or whatever, I'm like, I don't believe you, and it's not in the realm of believability. Like, you can tell they watched a lot of One Tree Hill when they were younger, because they're doing the whole like Lucas Scott, like, he's a jock but he reads books, and then he like quotes something, but he's like so surface level smart and well read that it's like, okay, you didn't need to do all that. That's kind of what it felt like to me at times. But it was surprisingly deep. I surprisingly connected a lot to the personal issues that they were facing together. And I did like that once their relationship had kind of resolved, they were a bit of a united front, and there was no real like threat or miscommunication between them as like an integral plot point, because that's a big trope that kind of puts me off. I find it's low-hanging fruit sometimes in a romance novel to be like, the entire climax of the novel hinges on a miscommunication trope. Like, come on. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. I surprisingly enjoyed it a little bit more than I thought I was going to. I was like, I'm either gonna really hate it or be really pleasantly surprised, and I feel like I do just kind of fall in the middle on it, which, you know, many such cases. But I'm glad I went with the book that I did, because it was the premise that was most intriguing and natural to me, and the other ones I don't think I will like, and so I don't have any major interest in reading her other books anytime soon, but I wouldn't rule it out at this point, which I think is a step up, a step forward. That was not related to what I actually wanted to talk about in this segment at all, but whatever. Yeah, I feel like I said what I needed to say about the graphic novel. Like, I am not holding out hope for the specifics, but I'm in it for the love of the game, you know, and that's okay.
Can't make me disappear. You never saw me for what I was. You can't fake it.
I forgot about this. The material of the roof is coming off in the back, has been coming off. This is a not very old, but an older used car, and it was taped up. wrong book. I'm back and I've got the goods. I can't believe I'm holding this in my hands right now, to be honest. This is like crazy dream of mine. They just had the paperback, so I didn't get the choice between this and the hardcover, but I think I was leaning towards this anyway, just because I feel like I generally enjoy having paperback graphic novels because the pages are going to be thicker and more stiff anyways, and so binding wise it's nice to be able to control how much room you got on the pages. Oh my god, I'm looking at it right now. I'm flipping through, I'm seeing all the pictures of the I literally can't believe it. I can't believe it. Blue Sargent comes from a family of psychics, only she has never had the same clairvoyant abilities they had and has always felt too ordinary within the magic that surrounded her. Enter Gansey, a rich student from Aglenby, the town's all-boys private school teeming with wealth, privilege, and trouble. The way I can't read. Blue's always made it a point to stay away from its students, the Raven Boys. But when Gansey asks her to join him and 3 other Raven Boys on his quest to find a long-forgotten Welsh king rumored to be sleeping beneath the mountains of their quiet Virginia town, Blue doesn't hesitate. She jumps at the chance to finally be a part of something real and full of magic. A world she was born into, yet one that always stood just out of reach. Soon enough, she's swept into a strange and shifting world within theirs, one far more dangerous than anything they could have dreamt up. Now reimagined as a stunning, full-color graphic novel, adapted by Stephanie Williams and illustrated by Sass Millage, The Raven Boys unravels a thrilling plot around a cast of characters impossible to forget. And impossible to forget they are. This is my Super Bowl. I'm gonna finish this portion of the video quickly so I can go and read. It's such a gorgeous hot day, so I'm gonna go read outside. But I wanted to show you guys a little bit of a haul because I did go to the mall and I got distracted. I spent over an hour in the bookstore just wandering around, and I did decide to get some things. The first one being And Don't. Kind of a weird choice. Books versus Cigarettes, the essay collection from George Orwell. I had to read 1984 in high school and I barely made it through it. I was really negatively impacted by the main character fantasizing about raping and murdering a character named Julia. So I wanted to give it a second go now that I'm a bit older. I had picked this up and looked through it and I was very curious about it, and I saw it there again today, and so I decided to pick it up this time, and so I can like dip my toes back into George Orwell without having to go headfirst into 1984 again. And then I went back and forth about also picking up Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which I ended up doing. I was doing a little bookshop research into whether, like, where I should go next in terms of Didion, because I am really intrigued to get to the White Album, but this one came first chronologically, and I looked on Reddit and everybody was saying that they would suggest starting with this one, and I'll have this for when I do want to end up picking it up. I decided to go into Roots because I was thinking about something that would be kind of distinctly Canadian to bring as a gift for my friends to go with the books. These are the ones that I ended up picking up for them because this one is just like my one friend, and the only size they had left was her approximate foot size. Not that I would know, not in a creepy way, in a logical way. And then this pair, which is more like my other friend and very up his alley, the only size I had left were in his size. So I was like, that's perfect. That's something that's entirely in line with what I wanted to do, and easy peasy. My haul. I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna eat some food, and then I'm gonna go outside and we're gonna crack into I made it to page 12 before crying. second bout of tears. This is wild.
Rock in a hard place, it's battery control.
Yes.
What am I waiting?
Hey y'all, it's been 2 days and I've thought about it a little bit and I'm ready to give my thoughts. Naturally, I did enjoy it. I feel like being able to see everything kind of laid out visually was just really, really fun, and the art style was just beautiful. I really like how it was treated panel to panel. I like the character designs, all of that. Like the aesthetic aspect of the book was completely up to snuff. I really, really enjoyed it. I feel like there are a couple of things in terms of pacing and plot, comparing it to the original novel, that I have been kind of chewing on since then, and like this is partially influenced by thoughts and opinions that I've seen from other people since then, but not entirely. The main thing, this is your spoiler warning, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a spoilery review, okay? So if you don't want to hear that, then this is the time for you to stop, okay? I think the biggest thing that felt like an egregious shift from the original novel was the scene where Gansey picks Adam up from the hospital after his dad attacks him. That one is a pretty infamous scene in the fandom because Gansey and Adam really get into it and have like a crazy argument, and Gansey says the word repugnant and Adam's like, stop throwing those big words around, and Gansey's like, sorry, your dad never taught you the meaning of the word repugnant. He was too busy smashing your head against the wall while you apologize for being alive, or like something like that.
You need to leave.
I feel like that was pretty close to it, but you know, paraphrased. Which it's not clocking to you that he's standing on business. It goes viral like once every 3 or 4 months in terms of like parts of the story that get brought up and kind of dredged up time and time again. That's the one where people tend to like talk about it and debate it the most. At large, I feel like it has become a little bit of a Gansey versus Adam thing that really, like, it's such a stark portrayal of who the two are as characters that I feel like it's super, super important to have that scene in the novel to contextualize where these two characters are coming from and what their relationship is. But I feel like because it has had such a divisive existence in the fandom since the book's original release, and that people have kind of treated it as a like, you kind of pick your side in the argument and that's that, they ended up cutting the scene down and they barely even had an argument at all during it. And I feel like that was to the disservice of the story. I wish that they had kept the full scene, even if it was reworded a little bit, just because I feel like even though it's a bit ugly, even though it's a bit unsavory in terms of how both characters approach the argument, it's important. And it's also equally important to see your characters do unsavory things and like allow that to happen, you know, because it's a novel, it's a story. These people are not constantly going to be morally good. They're teenagers, you know? So that was the first thing that I kind of noticed on first read. Other things I've been chewing on since then are pacing and timeline issues. I wish it was just a little bit longer. And I think that it was well treated within the confines of the book, but we could have done with 50 to 100 more pages, just purely to have a little bit more breathing room. It would have been nice to have a little bit more full page spreads and like aesthetically have more time to take in everything that we're talking about. I just wish that it had kind of slowed down a bit when you were in Caves Water, because that's how Caves Water works. I feel like there was an interesting opportunity for the pacing of the novel to kind of reflect the pacing of the story, if that makes sense, and that just didn't happen in the same way. The other thing is that I just feel like because a lot of the integral information that we get about the characters and their kind of position in the book happens in the narration, I wish we had a little bit more time to focus in on some of the other characters and their plots, because I just don't feel like we're gonna get the same punch in terms of how the arc of the story unfolds when we don't have the same association and connection with the individual characters, like motivations and fears and worries and strengths and that kind of stuff. Like, I'm particularly thinking of Adam because I'm an Adam Parrish stan. I don't know if we actually got into that much of his loneliness. We obviously get like his backstory. I don't know if we have the same kind of foundation to see how what is going to happen in the future is meaningful for him as a person, because we don't get to see his kind of solitary self in the graphic novel. I wish we also had a little bit more of Blue, and again, similarly, her story. It felt very like Gansey and Ronan heavy, which is easy to do, and it's not like that's an inherently bad thing, but I just wish it was a little bit more balanced. I mean, the next one, The Dream Thieves, is going to be very Ronan heavy, and by the time we get to, you know, like the Adam and Persephone era, like, how are we going to understand and know that that is as significant as it is? In that sense, like, the people reading the graphic novel exclusively are not getting the same things out of the story as the people who are reading the novel, and I don't think that that should inherently be the case. And I'll link whoever pointed it out. There's a foreshadowing line that was given to a different character that, like, it makes no sense at all. For, I think it's Adam's supposed to say a line and they have Blue say it instead, and it doesn't make sense because it's foreshadowing something that happens to Adam at the end of the novel. And I also feel like that's ridiculous because I don't know if I didn't pick up on it in the moment, but it's true, and I'm wondering if there's more things like that that happened that I just didn't really pick up on because I was so wrapped up in the moment. But those are like very important, like, story structure things. Frankly, why didn't Adam say that there? It just feels like the instinctual reaction to those kinds of difficult to illustrate portions of the novel was to cut them, and I would have maybe done it differently. Yeah, one of my favorite lines in the entire series is this one here. She recognized the strange happiness that came from loving something without knowing why you did. That strange happiness that was sometimes so big it felt like sadness. It was the way she felt when she looked at the stars. Again, that's something that's not going to translate very easily, but makes me sad. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention the fact that the scene where they write "remembered" on the Camaro for Noah was also omitted. And I feel like that's another one that's just like, it would have been gorgeous to see illustrated, but also, like, that's important foreshadowing for the rest of the story and an important scene for him as a character. So the fact that they didn't include it is a little like, I don't know. All in all, I feel like it's very easy for me to kind of dig into my critiques and criticisms. Overall, I'm not mad at it. Do I have thoughts and feelings about the minutia of it? Absolutely. I always will. I'm a very opinionated person. I think there are certain things that shouldn't have been omitted, could have been done, and should have been done in potentially a different way, but I don't think that it actually was like that bad. It's gorgeous. I love the art. I like actually cannot stress enough how much I love the art. There's some really, really gorgeous, cute little panels. Thank you for hanging out with me, clicking onto this video, chatting. I hope you have a great rest of your week rest of your day, rest of your night. I'm about to go to bed. But yeah, I will see you in the next video.